Hi, I'm Mario Guerra, the two-time former mayor of the great city of Downey, and you're listening to Talking Downey. So today, there's a lot of good things going on in the city of Downey. This is early January 2024. I forget the year we're at, and I wasn't even supposed to mention that. But there's a lot of things happening in the city, and I kind of wanted to recap a couple of things that I think are important. So I watched the council meeting from this first council meeting in the city of Downey. And first of all, it was great having a 5-people council. It was great. They seemed to be getting along. They seemed to be moving things forward. They seemed to be very efficient. And remember, we got 2 new council members. This is technically their first meeting. So everybody had their little things to say. But a couple things that have been going on in the city that I think most people are going to find positive. So this week, a couple of days ago, we had meetings with the DDIA. By the way, the DDIA, most people don't know what it is, but the DDIA, it's the Downtown District Improvement Association. So there was a gadfly that's been coming out of city council, a different gadfly by the name of Bruce, an older gentleman. And he gets up there and he tells the city council, whatever you do, stop giving to nonprofits, stop supporting the DDIA. And he mentioned some other ones, including Whole Child, which is an amazing program for homeless families. But the DDIA specifically, and I kind of laughed. The DDIA is self-supporting. The DDIA is a downtown district that decided to tax themselves. The property owners in downtown Downey said, hey, we'll tax ourselves, but we want to be able to, with that extra money, decide where it goes, okay? So they can do it for safety, to put events to drive new business downtown, to clean the streets, to secure that, to have clean parking lots. So all those different things are from the DDIA. It's not new. City of Pasadena, Glendale, many other San Diego, Old Town have that, and it's worked out great. So City of Downey, in its wisdom, a couple years decided to do that. The property owners, the guys that own the buildings, the guys and ladies that own the building, they decided to tax themselves to do this. So here in the City of Downey, it's been going strong for about 1.5 years now. The community has embraced it, and it's moving forward. You have we had a meeting for the communications division, and we had about 20 people here in the room this last Monday. And then after that, you had a board meeting, which, by the way, is subject to the Brown Act, and it's open to anybody. So if anybody wants to see where the money is going to and where it's coming from, you're more than welcome to join. But anyway, so Bruce, the new gadfly at City Hall, just get some information on it, and I wanted to bring that up on the DDIA. It's doing some great things, and one of the things that they're trying to do is get a new signage across Downey Avenue. It designates it as Downtown Downey. They're working on a new logo for Downtown Downey. They're working on a new security contract. They're working on repainting and recleaning the parking lot to make it safer. So anyways, I just hope people educate themselves. You're educating yourself by watching this podcast. So what else is going on in the city of Downey? So let me give you a brief things and a recap of some of the things we've talked about. So Shake Shack coming to the corner of Downey and Firestone. So there's that building there. It's about to be torn down. There's a permit has been given to the property owner to tear it down. Last couple of weeks, we had a lot of homeless people that kept breaking into it, and some of them started a fire. So now there's a fire that happened there. Our fire department came in, put it out. They did arrest some transients that started it. When the property owners were literally there looking at it, other transients were sitting there trying to break into the building, literally in front of the property owners. It just seems that there's no respect anymore. So anyways, they have a permit to demolish the building, and now it's up to the city. Hey, let them, they're cleaning people, they're hazmat people. They already had hired them, and the fire department canceled it, didn't even tell the property owner. So we need to move on that, because we have a tenant, Shake Shack, that they're not going to wait forever. So that's what's happening these days. So if you get, if you hear this, tell your council person, like, hey, we got to get that place moving and going forward. I talked to the property owner of Peking China. They said they hired a contractor, so that's going to start working on opening up our Peking China. Many of you know about Florida Restaurant. It's over on Lakewood and Florence. It's one of my favorite places. Again, had a fire a couple years ago. They're rebuilding it. They're doing it newer and better. I know the building owner, Mike Murray, longtime Downey resident. But anyways, so I'm excited for that. So the place that everybody in Downey loves to pick on, okay, and I'm saying that facetiously, I'm not sticking up for him, is the famous Ojos Locos, okay, that opened up very controversial, they call them, not my words, Chicas, okay, just with their dress ordinance and so forth. So the city of Downey, after this got passed by the Planning Commission, before I was on the Planning Commission, an uproar from the community when they look at their website, look at their things, scantily clad young ladies, very provocative dress, the little shorts halfway up the buttocks, very low cleavage and so forth. So the city of Downey passed an ordinance saying you have to have a certain clothing ordinance at a certain measurements, no more than 3 inches of cleavage and so forth. We talked about it on the show. We kind of laughed because it's kind of hard to enforce. Number one, who's going to do the measuring? Number two, how that would be applicable to all our other establishments, in sports bars and so forth. So evidently, so fast forward now, they've been open about 4 months. And I've never been in there, but I've driven by, and they always seem very, very busy. And now all of a sudden it was on the council agenda to talk about it in closed session. But the letter written by Ojos Locos to the city of Downey is a public record. It was part of the agenda. So I want to read to you some of this. Okay, the Ojos Locos Sports Cantina, it's on their letterhead from Don Diaz, their general counsel. And she writes it to Mr. Monroy, which is a City of Downey Code Enforcement Division. And pursuant to our conversation December 14th on the General Counsel, Ojos Locos, going forward, direct all correspondence to me. Our office is in receipt of 2 recent administrative citations issued to Ojos Locos located at 8350 Firestone Boulevard. It should be noted that these 2 citations are for the same violation, but resulted in double billing because there's 2 company officers. This double billing resulted in $4,000 being paid to the city through the required appeal process. So obviously they're appealing it. Here's the interesting part in the last paragraph. If you're not already aware, City of Downey Municipal Code DMC 4996 is both unenforceable and unlawful. The legal precedent, Edge versus City of Everett, relied on this, was implemented, has been declared unconstitutional. The United States Western Court in Seattle held the dress code ordinance violates the Equal Protection Clause of the U.S. Constitution. The city of Everett later paid $500,000 to settle this claim. So we're requesting that the city not target and discriminate against the female gender that we hire as chicas. It's in their letter. We are requesting that the city not target and discriminate against the female gender that we hire as chicas, immediately refund all fees paid and revoked said ordinance, and they sent a copy of the appeals. Don Diaz, General Counsel. So it was going to talk about in closed session, and by law, I should know what happened in closed session. Nobody should. It's a council people with our city attorney and city manager. So we don't know what they decided, what they're going to do. They're going to go forward. They're going to fight it, how they're going to enforce it. Are they going to repeal the municipal code? But we thought that was interesting. We can't get enough of Ojos Locos, and I'm being facetious when I say that. So I hope you're listening to that. So, okay, moving forward. What else happened at the council meeting? Well, first of all, they recognized the mayor of Guadalajara, Pablo Slimas. He's running for governor of Jalisco, and he came into town. And why is that important? Well, the city of Guadalajara is a sister city to the city of Downey. August 1957, President Eisenhower said, we should form sister cities with other cities and other countries for cultural, educational, economic purposes, right? So fast forward to August 1960. The city of Downey with the city of Guadalajara became the very first sister city in the history of the United States. In the history of the United States. Some other cities followed a couple of weeks later, but we were the first. So we have a special relationship with Guadalajara. The mayor of Guadalajara came out in 2010 to, kind of re-sign after the 50th anniversary. I was on the council then and remember taking him to lunch. And believe it or not, where he wanted to go was to Bob's Big Boy. So we all went and had lunch at Bob's Big Boy, and we re-signed this. And I sent the new city manager and some of the council members the front page of the Downey Patriot from 2010. So he came into town. I thought that was newsworthy, and he was here with our city council and so forth. So council meeting, my observation of watching the council meeting, I thought it was well run. It was efficient. All 5 council people seemed to be very respectful, get along, made decisions. I think every single vote that they took was unanimous. When a council member brings up something now that city manager requested, there's at least a second so the staff doesn't waste their time on, wild goose chases if there's no other council person that wants to look at it. So I call that was for Catherine Alvarez because she sent our staff on wild goose chases. So they kind of put this in. So last night on just about everything that every council member requested to be looked at, and they asked, is there a second? And another council person, all 5 of them seconded items. So that was encouraging and promising. That doesn't mean those things pass, but that means that they're at least willing to look at it, and all council members are being respectful of that. So I thought that was kind of interesting. The new councilwoman, Dorothy Pemberton, asked to look at the sign ordinance. There's a lot of signs that were left over and banners and stuff in the last election. She asked staff to look at it. Councilmember Ortiz said he was happy about the RVs getting out of there on Woodruff. That was one of his campaign promises, and the city manager responded to that right away. Wanted to look at smoke shops in each of the districts and see how that goes because they got a bad reputation. Mayor Trujillo brought up about the streets around the courthouse in bad condition. Talked about our new graffiti abatement truck. Ours is quite old. And then also mentioned about the items from the Aerospace Foundation coming back to the city and asking them if there's some things there that should be left to the city or better yet to the Columbia Space Center. So anyways, just give you a quick recap of that. First thing on the agenda is a public hearing. A public hearing is because of the CDGB grants. Community Development Block grants that the U.S. Housing Authority gives to each city to use for certain things. City of Downey has done an amazing job rehabilitating houses for seniors, for less able folks. And there's a long waiting list, and they showed up some samples of painting, of fixing windows, of fixing doors, of making house habitable and livable and nicer and so forth. So that was approved. Some of the things that came out of it, that certain ones had to be taken down. Like one is $10,000 for the True TLC, which we all love, but they didn't meet the qualifications based on that. So that goes back into the pot, and some things were reevaluated. Again, this Bruce guy comes up because you can have public comment. And he says the city of Downey needs to stop supporting all these nonprofits like the DDIA, which has got nothing to do with the city from that perspective. And then former mayor that's on the board of Whole Child, he's talking about former mayor Rick Rodriguez. Folks, we did an episode on the Whole Child. They have a $33 million budget, and $30 million of it is from all the different pots on there to take care of homeless families. $3 million that they have to fundraise. The city of Downey gets a very, very small amount of that. But I can tell you they opened up a new one on Florence Avenue. And it's awesome. If you have a homeless parent, that needs to take their kid to school, they can take their kid there in a private area. Their kid can shower, can get clean clothes, so that way there's not the stigma of being homeless. They'll give them supplies. They'll give them, things to make them whole, and also to look at ways to find them housing. So, I'm sorry, Mr. Bruce on there, you need to inform yourself. You make random comments like that. I know Mayor Rodriguez, and he couldn't be prouder of being on that board. We did an episode on them. Watch the episode, learn what they do. They're amazing people and great things. So anyways, so it passed unanimously, a couple of changes, and that public hearing passed. Interesting thing, so what else did they do? They voted in some new commissioners. Each one of their new folks have new commissioners. Mr. Trujillo voted in Luis Morales for his planning commission, which is interesting. Luis Morales had been on the planning commission before, and it looks like he's running against Ms. Pemberton. So it's kind of funny how that does, because he's got a hashtag Luis Morales for Council 2024. So it looks like Mr. Trujillo is looking at Mr. Morales to go against Dorothy Pemberton. Mr. Trujillo's planning commissioner was Horacio Ortiz, which is now in the council. So he nominated Hector Lujan. That used to be another planning commission, a good man, vice principal at Paramount High School, and had run for council several times. And Miss Dorothy, she nominated Mr. Cycli. I don't know him. She also nominated his wife for something else too. So the planning commission is going to be Mr. Cycli, Mr. Morales, Mr. Lujan, Carrie Uva, which is Claudia Fermetta's current planning commission, and yours truly, myself. I was appointed by Mayor Pro Tem Hector Sosa. So in 1 year, I've gone to the second highest seniority in the planning commission. Carrie Uva is now the longest serving one, and then myself as the second one on there. So that's the new planning commission. Each one appointed other folks to other committees. The one that's also important is Mr. Trujillo. The mayor usually does an administrative report on the in-house committees, the downtown committee, the budget committee, and so forth, and then also for the representative of certain other councils. So that's on the council agenda. Feel free to look it up at cityofdowney.org, and it tells you who got represented. The ones that are interesting, the budget one to me is always the most important, and Mr. Trujillo appointed himself and Ms. Pemberton on the budget committee. The downtown committee, which obviously my office is in downtown, so I'm especially fond of that, and I help write the downtown specific plan. So that has Mayor Pro Tem Sosa and Councilman Ortiz. So feel free to look those up and be acquainted with who represents you on what committees. So public comment. So the crazy gadfly that would used to come in and yell obscenities, and everybody was protected by free speech and so forth. As you know, the council filed a restraining order on him, and a judge agreed, a temporary restraining order from him to come in council meetings. He can write in things and send it in, but he no longer can come there and use the MF word that he was using. He was using the N word. It was terrible, especially if you had families there. You didn't want anybody attending a council meeting. So rumor has it that has been extended for 3 years. I don't have confirmation of that completely, but I've heard that through the grapevine. But the good part is he's not there. You got some other gadflies, like I said, that Bruce guy on there that just spouts things and puts down people without having any facts or any evidence. But at least he's not cussing. So, and he does it in a monotone voice. So I'm thinking with that. Interesting, a couple of people that came up, Ernesto Val doing public comment, and this is on the record so you can listen to him. So he talks like he's on the council, which is kind of funny, but he got appointed by Mayor Trujillo for Parks and Recs Commission, which is like, one of the things he's pushing, and he brought it up last night, lights at Furman Park. Oh, we need lights for Park. You promised it. And by the way, nobody's ever promised that because most people don't want the lights there. So he wants speed humps. Okay, I had proposed speed humps when I was on the council 15 years ago, and a lot of residents don't like it from being in front of them. There's only one speed hump in the city of Downey. That's an Ardis, ARDIS, off of just south of Imperial. And that's because I had to get the entire block to sign off on that. Because usually what happens in speed humps, when you get to the speed hump, people slow down. So usually the houses in front of it, have issues. We put one up on Suva, and the residents begged us to get rid of it because you had, tire skidding. Speed humps can be effective. What's more effective on the speed humps is the sign telling you there's going to be a speed hump. You can have it very low. So I kind of agree with him, but that's been proposed for years, and councils keep rejecting it for various reasons. The one thing I have objection with, he says, and he was talking about taxes and all these other things, and you don't need any more taxes. You have a surplus of $33 million. Okay. So again, a little education goes a long ways. We don't have a surplus of $33 million. We have a balanced budget. Okay. We have reserves of $33 million. Here's a big difference. Our goal on the council always was not to use reserves for ongoing expenses, maybe a one-time thing that we really wanted. When I left the council, we had 41% of our general funds was in reserve, an unheard of number. So now it's in the probably, 20 some odd percent or 30% on there, but that's still a good number. But we don't have a surplus. Surplus means you have extra money. That's totally reserved. So let's get that straight. The other part is that 2 other residents came that live right behind Furman Park. So Furman Park, and they're talking about lights, they came because they heard that there was going to be a discussion. One of them, Jeff McCacken, said, I live right there. I have balls in my backyard all day long that I'm throwing back. I don't want lights. I have nothing against Little League, but I don't want lights there to go on until 8, 9 o'clock at night, in the peace and quiet of our street on there. This park was built in the 50s, so it's got that old town feel. And then another resident that did the same thing, she says that, hey, I don't want lights there affecting my calmness and stuff. So that park, by the way, is Northwest Downey Little League uses it. When I was on the council, we made it clear that that park belongs to the city. We'll let them use it, of course, and especially we invested on the snack shack. But we said on the dais and the records are there, hey, if somebody wants to use it, they have the right to use it at any time, the park and the snack shack. Oh, yes, of course. So last weekend, my grandson that's getting ready for another Little League went there with my son-in-law, and, of course, the park is locked. There's nobody playing, okay? There's 2 t-ball fields that are unlocked on there, and you had dogs running around. They should be, and there's a couple people playing. But to play baseball, they had to jump the fence at Furman Park. And this is on a Saturday. Those fields should be open. It's more than 20% of the park. It should not belong to a Little League. I understand Little League what's going on, and they maintain some of the fields, but not in the off season, not when it's not being used. They're locked up. And then there's a lot of use of tournaments and travel ball. So my question is, where does that money go? If a travel ball team goes there and reserves it through Northwest Downey Little League, does that money that they're paying to be there, does it go back to the city or does it go to Northwest Downey Little League? Because it's city owned. It's like me setting up a shop and collecting, making money off of something that the parks, something that doesn't belong to me. So I have nothing against Little League, but I think Mr. Valle needs to, look at that. I don't think he's president anymore. But anyways, those are some of the things that I noticed I thought were interesting. So there's a recap of what's going on in the city. I went longer and more boring than you thought, but I wanted to give you an idea or a thought. Listen, I welcome your thoughts, your ideas. This is Talking Downey, so it's a small recap of what just happened in the last couple of weeks. We want to thank the Rose Float Association for another winning float. There's all kinds of great things happening in the city of Downey. There's some things that we're going to comment in the near future that I think are going to be important. I also want to encourage to listen to our new show. Okay, here we kept Talking Downey local and about local issues. Of course, this year we do have politics. We have 3 elections in the city of Downey. We have some propositions that are going to impact us in the city of Downey. So we'll talk more about that. But we're starting a new episode, a new show called Talking California. And I'll be hosting it on there where we talk about bigger and broader issues. And we hope that some of the Talking Downey folks will want to listen and hear and get ideas. We're going to have some different guests on both the shows, obviously, that are more appropriate. Throughout the city here, I want to get our mayor here. I want to get our city manager, our city attorney. I want us to go out to different places, interview folks. Our subscribers are growing. Our Instagram followers are growing. So we want to thank you as we start the new year and really appreciate it. We also want to thank our sponsor, Financial Partners Credit Union. We couldn't do this without them. They've been here in the city for 80 years, and we couldn't be prouder. So anyways, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening this episode, and always Talking Downey.